Do you have a pen? I'll get it, because you're already like sitting down. Need a pen?
Yeah, pens.
What did you say, Duncan?
Oh,
It's not time for you to go to sleep? Did you say it wasn't time for you to go to sleep?
Okay.
I wasn't gonna come, but my inner child had a tantrum.
You have a pen?
Yeah, I'll take a second one from my left hand.
It's gonna be a rough group, but
Well, I can smell his tangerines.
If we really had an inner child, this place would be like screaming and full of naughty kids and. That's yet to come.
Welcome. Whoa, that's loud. Okay.
she's hot.
Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Kauai, Institute of Magnificence, and the very first birth of the Inner Child Academy with Patrick Feren. Yay. So welcome, yay. And welcome to everyone online. I know there's some people out there watching, and I will be back there to help facilitate that in a moment. But before we start, we have a couple of announcements. Tomorrow is Wisdom Wednesday and chocolate, and it is the last one. We're going on hiatus for a while because we're going to start classes in a bit. And so if you want to have that opportunity, it's a wonderful experience, and the chocolate is delicious, and we have some great discussions. It's tomorrow at 6:30. And then the film on Friday is Mission Joy with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and it is an amazing documentary, and will be shown here at 6 p.m. on Friday.
Yay.
And then, let's see, annual meeting, very important Sunday. Right after this journey service on Sunday, we will have our annual meeting and be discussing what's been going on at Center for Spiritual Living Kauai and what is going to be happening in the future. And if you're online and you would like the link for that, you need to ask us for it because it won't be publicly live streamed. It will be private link only. So ask us for a link if you want it. And then we're starting finally a new class, Science of Mind class, on February 8th. We're calling our series Radical Spirituality. And the first class is Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. And we are just going to delve deeply into the principles and actually learn how to use them and work them in our life and hold each other accountable for that and just really delve deeply into it. So that's starting on February 8th. It'll be a 4-week class. And that's all I have to say. So I will do a brief invocation, and then we will turn the time over to the child himself, Patrick Feren. So let's take a moment to take a deep breath. Oh, bring our attention right here, right now. Hi, Sue. I recognize the one power. I recognize that one source of energy, that one unlimited potential that is ringing through all of creation. Is something happening that I need to know about? I think it's fun.
Just the flood.
Okay.
I mean,
All right. Well, we'll just take that into this beautiful time together and know that everybody's safe and out of the water, and that we are in the water, swimming in the sea of receptivity of this beautiful principle called the inner child, and knowing that tonight is flowing perfectly and that everyone here is somehow touched by this in a way that's important to them. So I bless Reverend Patrick and his beautiful energy surrounding this subject, and know that just everything tonight just flows from that place of love. I am so grateful, and grateful for everyone here and everyone online, and knowing the perfection of this time together. So I just bless it, and I just allow it to be. I let it go with love as we affirm together, and so it is. Yay. Patrick Feren.
there, I have that. I'm just going to let there's three up here. It'd be a different place to sit for you three. Right, Zenith? Well, hello everyone online. I hear there's some people popping in and popping around out there. This is really even more of a special evening for me because I've taken the year off from the inner child work because I wanted to go into a deeper place and a deeper understanding about it. so that I could not only make it current and bring it to current so we could all use it. And I just love the fact that there's younger people here, because we were just talking about the fact that we always have our inner child, and it doesn't matter, you can have an inner child within the child. So it's a very, very cool. One of the things that the Institute of Magnificence, which is the Inner Child Academy, which I love about it, because it's not rare, but there's not a lot of inner child academies out there. There's a lot of academies, but there's not about inner child. And the way I'm setting it up for this whole year is to have it so that we just don't have a workshop and then it's over. And I'd like to thank actually Sue Wood, I don't mind calling her out, and Rita. Some of the feedback that I have received from the past is that, and I also knew it myself, is that we have these incredible, incredible workshops, and you start to really come up and really just bloom with it, right? And then it's over. And then it's kind of like, yes, what do I do with all of that, you know? And so I want to set it up so that we have things like pods, rite of passages, things that go out throughout the year, Saturday events that happen with this, all related to this idea of not just the inner child, but the inner you. A lot of people are sometimes uncomfortable with the idea of the inner child or the name, but if you want to call it the inner you, it doesn't really matter, because it's all happening. So I'm very excited, because in my meditation this morning, I realized that this was the start of something where I was just going to do it, but this is the start of something very, very big. And how nice to be looking at you, so that someday when they're, you know, going, I wanted to get in to see Patrick and the inner child, but I can't get in. Can you guys help me? Can you slip into that? And they'll say, I don't know, man, he's booked up. He's booked up there. How are we going to get into his inner child? So tonight, let's just a little bit of housekeeping with it. Is any questions that you have, go ahead and write them down, and we'll do something at the end. And then we're going to do a couple of exercises. So back to why that was so special, what you were telling us is that you needed more time. Well, it was a long time ago. She probably was going, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But the one thing is, she says they need to be able to follow up. And what I was trying to do was give you everything, because I'm a giver. I wanted to give it all in 4 hours, or give it all in 3 hours. And when I went through this year, I realized just one section of this kind of work deserves a whole evening to itself. Not trying to get in all of, tonight is more of a, hey Lord, tonight is more of an introductory, just to let you know really what's happening with it, and give you a little taste, not give you the whole banquet, but give you some poo-poos and see if you want to come back and have some dinner. So tonight, I want to start with this wonderful, it's called The Blessing from the Future. And it goes like this. When I think of my inner child, I think of us as the same. I realize that we are the unsung heroes of this life. Our wounds were bravely borne, and our pain often silently held. Our determination kept us going, and our dreams pulled us forward. Our wildness kept us free. Everyone likes that, I'm sure. The wildness kept us free. Our courage and spirit live within us as one. We release any shame or blame or guilt or responsibility for the actions of others, including our parents. You know them, parents. As we continue on our journey, I am grateful for the incredible work within that allows us to be integrated as one and live our life to the fullest. Welcome home. And I just think that just for myself, I was actually, as a kid, I was constantly seeking out why we were behaving the way we were, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But I was pretty young, these ages, when I was actually thinking a lot of ideas of what's really going on. So many of you know that we're on the tail end of writing that book that was Tales of Two Father, but now has another title that's buzzing around called The Little Man and His Path to Freedom. Because most of it was taken about up until probably 10 or 11, a lot of the book is there. So before we do any of that, I'm going to, do you have the mic? I'm just going to, so she's just going to, and here's the other housekeeping. If we pass the mic around and you don't feel like you want to say something, just go pass. And then that's fine. Just take responsibility, don't go, oh, man, because I know Margaret can't wait for the microphone to get over to her. So, but what I'm going to say is I'm going to start over here with Beth. And Beth, just give me one word, 2 words. When you hear the word inner child, what feeling or what thing comes up for you?
Curious.
Curious. Just pass it down and then.
Repressed.
Repressed.
Who's that?
Uh-huh.
Neglected.
Go ahead. Just say pass.
I've always used it.
Nice. Oh,
Too playful.
too playful?
Ignored.
Ignored. This is one word that comes up with inner child when you hear the word.
Beauty and
inner child.
innocence.
Say that one again, because I was yapping on top of you.
Beauty and innocence.
Beauty and innocence.
Loved.
Huh?
Happiest.
Happiest.
Alone.
Alone.
Exuberant.
Exuberant.
Lonely.
Lonely. One of the things that I want to bring up too is this who that Michael brought up, because it was interesting, because you landed in my notes, and I don't know how that happened, Michael. But I love the idea when you say who's their child, and you said, I'm not acquainted with the inner child. And I loved that, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm not acquainted. So the whole idea behind the passion that I have is that we can get to know that part of ourselves that we probably have already used all through our life, but we never really stop using it. It's such a dynamic force. Ron, what do you think of when you hear inner child? What's one word or feeling that comes up? Happiness. Good. So that's the whole idea. So let's look at a couple of the definitions of what we think inner child is. I'll use a few of them, and then I'll get to the most important, and it's mine. No, it is the concept of the inner child was first proposed by that psychologist, Carl Jung, after he examined his own childlike inner feelings and emotions. Jung postulated that it was this inside part of all of us that influenced all we do and the decisions that we make. Inner children were us when we were kids that never grew up. And for me, and here's a little disclaimer here, it doesn't matter what I say, it only matters what you believe and what you feel and what you think. This is just my interpretation. I'm feeling a little boxed in by all these little things at me. So just remember that when we talk about definitions, or I talk about experiences that I've had, they're my experiences, but I've been working this stuff for probably a long time, 20 years and probably 10 years, the last 10 years, just totally immersed, because I know that it's not separate from us. It goes on to say another definition, your inner child is a part of your subconscious that it's been picking up messages way before it was able to fully process what was going on, mentally and emotionally. It holds emotions, memories, and beliefs from the past, as well as hopes and dreams for the future. Now, one thing about that is inner child work is not about going on a witch hunt to find out all the people that treated us really bad and why we are the way we are. That is some of it. You're not going to get away from it. And it's not all our parents, which is fabulous. It's teachers, friends, bullies, whatever is coming up. but it's not just parents. So this isn't about let's blame everybody in town, but I do this work so that I can get to know that part of Patrick, so that when things come up for me, if I'm feeling neglected, if I'm feeling not heard, if I'm whatever comes up, I can work it. And what's great is this principle of science of mind works right in absolute alignment with our inner child work. So the one that I use all the time to for myself, that if I have to do publicity and if when I start to travel with this or do anything, this is what I would probably put it in the perfect words for this. So my definition is this: I believe with my whole heart and soul that and what I call the inner child is really the inner you and the inner me and the innermost God energy. It is that pure energy that has never been touched by anything but good. The aspect of us is waiting for a conscious connection to us. We know on some level that this part of us is there and awaits our recognition to allow us to be whole again. Why am I so driven to do this work? I feel that this journey to the inner world of the inner child is like having a child or a part of us that has been kidnapped and taken hostage by the past and the stories of the psyche. Oh, ever been there? And this is all good news tonight. This is not about, because once you're aware, we were just talking about that before you all got here. But once you're aware, it's no longer a boogeyman. If I know this is going on in my psyche, I said it's like a child is screaming to be heard and begging us to find them and acknowledge their existence. This part of ourself needs to know that we are not lost, we are not forgotten, and they do have a voice. And that's that part of us that just, in our daily life, the stuff that comes up and you go, why am I feeling like that? It just doesn't make sense. Because there's that part of us, I call it the God self, that is just reaching out to say, I'm here. We can really, really team up and really kick butt in this thing called the planet, the world, our lives. We can really do that. And it says, many of us grew up so fast. I love this. This was probably me, because that's why I love it. Many of us grew up fast and forgot that a part of us was left behind. The incredible and powerful part of us is still waiting for us to come bring him or her home to the self. I have been honored and privileged to be a guide for so many and to allow this reunion and integration to take place. What a joyous celebration it will be to go to the self from the self. And that's the reason for this evening, is just to remember that there's not dual personalities. It's just who we are. And as we start to get acquainted with it, then we go, wow. And we've talked about it, right? The things that happen to us, and we go, I don't know why that triggers me. Well, it triggers us because our inner child is filled with memories. No matter how old we are, filled with memories. And some of it makes us feel good. And we're not here someone said, we're just here to understand the inner child and let it go. And I'm thinking, no. It's not about letting anything go. It's about integration. It's about being able to really use it as the real God power. And here's something else I do want to address about this thing that's never been touched by anything but good. If you've ever have any abuse, which I have, and if not, read the book. It'll tell you all about it. All that laundry out there. But what I know is that it is so important for us to not look at what is wrong with us or what needs to be fixed about us, but to find that part of us that says, I just need to be loved, I need to be respected, and I need to have you parent me. So we have a lot of things going on tonight. I thought it would be nice to start start with a story. We are filled with stories, are we not? Fortunately and unfortunately, they do define our lives at times. These wonderful stories and these not so wonderful stories. And I'm, as you well know, most of you know me, so you know that I balance that out to the best of my ability. And there's a disclaimer that I have about tonight, especially with my cool friends here tonight. I just want you to know that I have processed everything that is in that book and that is in my life. I never talk about anything on Sunday that I have not processed. And when I say processed, dealt with, looked at, pulled it apart, loved it, cried through it, did everything. I did all of that so that I could actually be free enough to actually share it. Because I really believe if you haven't processed something, then you need to let that be processed with yourself before I share it with you. Even though it's very vulnerable to do that, it's also very dangerous. I have watched that, and I mean dangerous in a way that letting yourself go. I'm going to be vulnerable. Well, first I have to, even before I came tonight, I always check in with that little Patrick, that little man. I always go, you okay? We're going to talk about some stuff, and it's not about breaking down. It's not about any of that. It's about exploring this beautiful childlike wonder that we are. But before I tell the story, I thought, since a lot of you don't really know everything about my past, or some of you don't really care, but I wanted to give you a little bit of my family unit. And this might even be the cover of this book that's coming out about this. So we're going to see. So can everybody kind of see it? If not, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can see what an artist I am. I'm going to tell you about this picture, which is very, very interesting. When I was 19, I was in college, and I was in a psychology class. And we were doing some project, and I put this down on a piece of paper along with my story. And then I got a call in from the professor that said, can I talk to you for a minute? You know, this is something that might need to, how are you doing with all of this? Because what this is you can see Patrick, and you see not a real happy face, right? But then this is my dad. Dad, meet all these people. And my brother, Danny. And my mom, who held up my dad, who had mental illness. We just thought, actually, that he just drank a lot. But we found out later there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in that little mind of his. And so we had that. And then my brother, who was 7 years older, so that tells you a little bit of the dichotomy, was there. And so my mom was constantly having to pick them up. And then I was constantly having to pick up Mom. So even as a young man, I felt like I was holding up my mom, and then she was holding up those two, and I was holding up everyone. Does that give you a kind of a picture, of that? It can feel, like the shoulders might hurt a little bit, right? So the reason I tell you this is that this story that I want to share with you is about a process and a concept and a principle that I work a lot with. And if you've been here, you know it, about the framing it, reclaiming it, and renaming the stories of our life. Reframing it, reclaiming it, and renaming it. Not forgetting about it, not pretending it didn't happen, but looking at it from a perspective of more of the adult part of myself, whatever that means. The adult seems to get more in trouble than the child ever did. But this is that whole idea. So my dad and I lived in, the word dysfunction even becomes boring to me, because it's like join the dysfunction. All it really was a bunch of people and a family together that, didn't know what they were doing. They were very confused. My dad, with his mental illness that we just considered, Army, 20 years in the Army, drunk, does whatever. And then my brother, who was constantly trying to get his dad's attention. And then you have the little Patrick, who is, I don't know. I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I kind of made people laugh so that they felt better about all of this. So I focused it upon my mom. So the story from the book I want to tell, and if you've heard it before, it'll be fine. It'll be new and exciting for you. I want to tell it because it has to do with reframing, reclaiming, and renaming. And so the story happens with when I was probably, how old are you, Zena? 10, right? I was about 9, 8, 9. And I loved Christmas. And though Christmas is over, it's still worth the story. I loved Christmas. And this little boy loved it. I was the decorator. I was the begging before the 15th to get the tree, because we had to have it the 15th because then it lasted longer and wouldn't fall apart. So I had this, but one thing that I always knew, even at 8 or 9, that Christmases could always be this fun thing with Dad, because Dad would start out really great, and then, you know, a couple drinks later or a couple more of that, things got a little bit rough in the house. And like I told Rita says, you know, you don't have to hold back with any of you because we've been here before and we know. So I just want to let you know that the night that I'm talking about was a night that my father had paranoid schizophrenia, which that means that he had a lot of personalities that came out. And they were fun when they were like funny ones, but then you realize that they really weren't funny because they were real, at least to him. So whenever he would drink, we would all be having a good time. So this particular night, I decided to invite my friend over so that we could all decorate the tree. So we start decorating the tree, and Frank Sinatra's playing. I can still see the album. Frank Sinatra with his little hat on and play Jingle Bells, you know, and I love those Jingle bells. And so it was such a great evening. We had our dinner, and then I always knew it because I had what they call hypersensitivity. That means I could tell I watched every move you made. If you blinked, I knew what that meant. If you did, and that's a real fun thing to have at 7 or 8 or 9. You know, that it doesn't cause any stress to the body whatsoever. Wrong. So this particular night, everything's going. I was so excited. We were starting to decorate the tree, and then my dad got to the point where it's like, where we know that it's going to get ugly. So then I'm telling my mom, we got to take my friend home. But then she's telling me, no, maybe he won't be as bad tonight. And so what happened was he went a little ballistic and said, get that music off. And it just went completely ballistic. My mom said, get the kids in the car. Well, my brother was older, so he was already out of the house. And so I got my friend Darlene, and she went out of the house. And we ran, and my dad's screaming, where are you going? Where are you going? And all I could hear in the background was Frank Sinatra freaking singing. You know, it's like I could just hear, like, you know, the first Noel, where you going? You know, it's like this scene out of like Mommy Dearest, you know, and I'm laughing because I know, right? I know I have to make it funny because I'm not covering up emotions, but there is something about if you step back and you look at the ridiculousness of hearing these Christmas carols and my dad screaming, you get the hell out of the house. And blah. So we got out in the car, and then I could hear, you know, this screeching it across, and there was Frank Sinatra being, you know, Frank Sinatra, get him out of here, you know. I'm like, wow, he's all by himself, and he's still acting this out. So we get in the car, take her home, and when we drive back, it's always that lovely stomach, like what's going on when we get back, right? Look at everybody. It's like a bedtime story, but it's scary. So now you can watch Elvis because she doesn't want to watch Elvis because of that mean guy that's in it. But now you have another one that you can go first. So here's the deal. So we drive back, and we're apologizing. I'm crying. Darlene was crying in the car. My mom's like, oh, wow. So we pull back up. And as we start to pull back up, I go, oh, I hope he passed out. I hope he passed out. That was our big, oh, please be passed out. Please be passed out. And we drive up, and I go, what's in the street? Oh my God, is that somebody in the street? And my mom pulls over. It's the Christmas tree with everything splattered all over the ground in front of the house. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding. And I'm like, Mom. And I had already told my dad before I left that you ruin every Christmas, because he did. But we always had Christmas, so I was always excited. So I can just remember pulling in and my mom saying, here, let's get this cleaned up. And my tree, my beautiful tree, was just branches over there and cracked everything. And I was so angry. I just remember that part of me that just went, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. And my mom said, why don't you just clean that up and, we'll get it all fixed up and we'll get another tree. And I was so angry. And I walked in. My mom went in to see where my dad, and then the best sound from my dad when he was like that was this. Oh, he's sleeping. That means we're safe. So we go in, and I pull the tree, and I remember this thought that went through my head, and I walked to my dad's door, and my mom had already went into the room. Things were settling. We got the stuff in. And I remember standing there, and I'm being honest with you, just standing there thinking it would be so nice. And I thought of a knife. I thought it would be so nice to end this horrible, horrible nightmare that this family has to go through. So I'm standing there, and because of who I am and because I believe in something, it was so beautiful because I could never do it. But I wanted it because I wanted him gone. We say things like, I wish you were dead. But what we really wish is what? That you were gone. That the pain would stop. It's cheerful, isn't it? Don't you get all warm and fuzzy as we're telling the story? So here's the deal. So I stood there and I went and did something. I walked down there. I said, that can't be. And I remember that determined thing in a little boy's head, in a little boy's mind that said, you cannot take my Christmas. You cannot have my Christmas ever. And I went, short of taping the branches back, I put that tree up, and it was like, it made Charlie Brown's Christmas tree look good, And I started little by little, and I remember putting this tree together. And it was so metaphorical because I didn't know that at the time. I was just mad and said, and my real motivation was, wait till they wake up tomorrow. I'm going to have that tree up there, and me and my little dog, Mitty, we're putting it all together, putting it up. I got the ladder, and the tree's like, help me, and help me, I can't, And I put it all the way, and I got it looking to the best that I could, got the lights that were working back on it, and the little chip star that was at the top. And I got in there, and I put it back together. And that changed my life because it made me realize that nobody could ever take anything away from me. They can ruin the tree, they can do that, but they can't. And that's what was so funny. I always talk to Rita because I loved Christmas so much. Every year, the tree wasn't in the street every year, but every year Christmas had its own little meaning. And then Christmas mornings weren't so bad though, because usually people aren't, so early in the morning after Santa came. And we sat there, and I just said to myself, you have more power than you think. And when they woke up the next morning, my mom went, oh, wow. And I had the lights on too, waiting, right? The lights went on. My mom said, oh, Patrick, it looks beautiful. And then my dad said, what's going on? What happened? Oh, no memory of it. And so I went to, and my writings, I always say how interesting, he has none, and now he's left me with all of mine. But he said, what's everything so bad he's so mad at me for? But I can still see the tree as I'm looking right now. And the tree, do you see what the tree represents? The tree represents a whole strength. A strength that someone made decisions at a very young age, and we can make them at every age, every decision, everything that happens to us. We can make a decision to say, you're not taking my Christmas. It's just metaphorical, but we can all relate, don't you think? So the question I have is, was little Patrick a victim, a victor, or both? A victim? Yeah? Victim. Victor? Or both? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And the reason I bring it up is because we all live that on a daily basis with not just our inner child, but our inner selves, right? We can feel like a victim. We can feel like a victor. And none of them are wrong, by the way. And I don't, and you know, the part that I get nervous about is when I think of the fact that I wanted to kill my father. Because you wouldn't be, we'd have a whole different story with Patrick now, would we? Wouldn't we? I wouldn't be here, for one. And you wouldn't be even visiting me in jail because you wouldn't know me. But what I realized about that is not to be, and my little boy in the work I've done felt some shame around that, you can imagine. Some shame around the fact that I even thought about it. But if I don't tell you the truth, then this is all a sham. If I can't tell you how I really felt, the one thing that I'm really grateful for is that Patrick's heart was so big and so loving that he couldn't have done that. I know that. But it also made me understand sometimes how people did what they did. It helped me with compassion in the work that I did in the prisons. It helped me do a lot of that to understand the compassion. Now, what I would like to do with this one is, so how do you reframe? Now, this is a very big story, right? But it's any story. Somebody saying that, you know, your first grade teacher saying, you know, Patrick's kind of isn't the smartest cookie in the school. How do you take it? And then that's just as important, and it's all subjective. The reason I tell the Christmas tree story is because it's subjective to me as well. I know people who have had nothing happen in their homes, and they're still dealing with that part of them that felt ignored by their family, ignored by teachers because they were really good kids and nobody even went around them. They just let them be. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I remember talking to this one girl that I dated, and she said, and I told her a story about my dad or something like that, and she said, God, to have that kind of action. I went, you've got to be kidding. He goes, no, our dinners were like, so how was your day? Fine. How was yours? And I'm sitting there going, I would have craved for just a few of those moments when I was growing up. So do you see how subjective it is? So let's reframe it. So this little boy, and my brother's a good example, this little boy has this experience, and he gets up there and says, I'm never trusting Christmas. I'm never trusting having a good time ever. Because this is what happens to people who try to have Christmas. This is what happens to people. This is another story to be told, right? You should have seen me, well, how come you don't like Christmas? Well, I'll tell you why I don't like Christmas. I'll tell you the Christmas tree story. And then everybody goes, yeah, I get why you don't like Christmas. Well, of course, but to reframe it, so I had to take my little boy, and when I say my little boy, that part of me, and really sit down with me and reframe it. Now, reframing has things like this, and it doesn't mean it has to be this, but you choose the experience that you want to reframe. And we're doing that with the Christmas. What's the story that needs reframing? Stories can become our identity, right? I could have many identities from that story. Victim, can't trust anybody. That's why I took after my father, because I could have done the whole 9 yards. And my brother did. My brother did say, we can't, I don't have anything, can't even bring my friends over near the house because of Dad. And I was this going, you're not ruining my childhood. You are, but you're not going to ruin it. And in that case, you're reframing. So when I reframe this whole story about Christmas, I reframe it by asking some very good questions. And what do you think is I'm feeling underneath? What's Patrick feeling underneath this that needs reframing? Shame, fear, sadness, hatred, all these emotions, because what we're talking about with the inner child is not the story. We're talking about the feelings behind the story. When somebody hurts you in any way, or a bully picks on anybody, it's not the story, even though it is the story, because God knows I told that story for many years. And I could get some payoff out of that story too. People were like, oh, my pet, come here, hold me. Oh, yeah. And so I did want to be held. I'm not making fun. That little Patrick, I had to talk to him for many years to go, you can trust. You can go buy a Christmas tree, I promise you. Because even when I moved out at 19 or 20, I still felt like, who's going to come in and crash my tree? Who's going to come in and do that? But I had to reframe it to go, okay, let's take this. Oh, I have to tell a different, look at, we call it framing, right? This story, not to say it didn't happen, but how can we look at it? Oh, and reclaim the story. There's the second part is reclaiming. When you're sitting there saying, look with new eyes to an old story, right? I looked at that story and I said, what did that tell me? Oh, Patrick, this is self-talk, right? Patrick, you're a brave little boy. Wow. Look at you. You put that tree together and you couldn't even reach to the top of it. Look at you. No, I did it because I was angry. I was going to get him back. That's what. No, Patrick, let's talk some more. What really happened in this story? You're like a little superhero. Look what you did. You went in there, you and your dog, Mitty, and you sat there, which we did. The lights were on, and I felt such a sense of accomplishment. You felt a sense of accomplishment, Patrick, really? I bet it felt good when you couldn't wait for him to wake up in the morning to show them that you showed them, didn't you? And then it was like, yeah. And I started working, not to get rid of the story, but to understand the feelings. How did you feel? Scared. How did you feel? Hatred was a hard one because I didn't like hating, right? Nobody wants to hate anybody. So you keep working the story, and that's why I was saying with this Inner Child Academy, this is a day, a whole day we could play in this arena. Everyone's going, oh, that's fun. That's going to be fun. I can't wait for that day. No, but we can take our stories and turn them into victories. Even the ones that, and then you go, well, what, things can get really bad. Of course they can. Of course they can. But when you get acquainted with that part of yourself, you become a team. You become like, Patrick, what do you think of that one? Then you can even have fun and say, look what happened with that. Did you see the look on your mom's face when she saw that tree? She thought that tree was gone. You see how those branches were all there and you were like shoving them up? And look at how you put all the lights back together, all by yourself. I'm so proud of you, little Patrick. I'm proud of you. And that's what later on, and then it starts to go, and then you rename it as a victory. You still go, that's absolute BS, what my dad did. This is not about, oh, let that go. No, you can still have all your feelings as well, you should. But you cannot, if I continue to be a victim of that story, then I would never, ever have another Christmas. Then you owned me. We say that with abuse of any kind. If I keep reliving it and keep redoing it and keep letting you have the power, then I keep reliving it and I don't have my power. I gave that little boy back his power. But if you're not trained in it or you're not thinking that way, you're just going, wow, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. And that's that part that I'm thinking that we have to connect with, which brings me to connecting with that inner child. We're going to play with that a little bit. So give me one word that you're feeling right now. I'll say it right now. What's one word? Just any feeling. Tired. Resilient. Opened. Excited. Tentative. Anybody try to protect me up there? You better say yes. Did you protect me to that story? Through that story? Yes. Open. Pass. Interested. In the process, or interested?
Interested in how far we can go with it.
Oh. Do you see my God bumps? Ooh. When that happens, that means truth just got thrown into the room. Yes. Determined. Curious. Victorious? You're victorious. Yeah. Yeah. Allowing. Relaxed. Curious. The reason for, oh, Jonathan, what are you feeling right now? Hungry? I do that to many people when no. Okay, so what I want to play with is this idea of getting to know. I believe it's all in the, okay, first of all, reframing, reclaiming, renaming. Now, show of hands, is there anybody that would love to reframe and reclaim and rename any story in their life? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, and the purpose for it isn't just because we don't have anything better to do but reframe, reclaim, and rename stories, because those stories are still touching us and they're still affecting us because we're still having them as our identity, even if we're not aware of it, because they're living in the subconscious. And so they say, is there anybody that doesn't have an inner child that needs some kind? No, I've never met any myself. I've never even met young people that don't have the inner child going on. But it's because it's the inner, what I believe is that it is that inner part of ourselves that's actually our Savior, if you want to even use the word Savior. I used to think I was in there to save and help my inner child, and my inner child was saying, I think you got this backwards, dude. I'm here to help you because you're now an adult, and we partied and ran away from each other because, why? Because, I don't know, nobody told me, make sure to look out for your inner child as you grow up. They just said, grow up as fast as you can and get going, and life sometimes is a drag and sometimes it's wonderful, and that's not the way I chose to live. So what I want to do right now is have Rita come up. I'm going to have her play the bowls just a little bit, and we're going to just play with this idea. Now, there's something I want to ask you. And when we do, I have a three-weeker coming up. What we would do in that workshop is we'd actually go with what Margaret was talking about. Let's go down. Let's just look here, and we're safe. Nothing's going to harm you. No, you're safe because you have this gentleman here that is never going to let any child go unnoticed, and we're never going to leave any child behind, and you're always safe. So I want to really reiterate that so strongly. When you're in this environment with me, I take it holier than sacred than more than anything else, because when we are vulnerable and opening up, it can be a very scary place. And to know that, but what's great about it, it's so loving, and when you can do that. So what I want to ask you, is there anything, and you know, we don't have to go like through it, just raise your hand and tell me. Is there anything that because a lot of my clients that I work with, they really have a thing about, I wish I had been told this, or I wish I had been said this, or like I love the work I do is, I'm so proud of you. Oh my God. You watch people's faces, adults, you walk out and say, how you doing? I am so proud of you, because you'll know something that they're going through. Oh, I'm so proud of you. And it makes people feel what? Good. Why? Because you're proud, and we didn't, I mean, that, once a person said, that's the only thing that I loved, I wish I had been told I was proud, someone was proud of me more. So do you have anything that just a word or something that or something you wish somebody had said? It doesn't have to be your parents, teachers, anybody that you would have heard more of that would have assisted you. You're awesome. You're enough. You're enough. Oh my God, the Not Enough Club. Oh my God, how many people have joined that one off and on? Anything for you? Pass?
Be your own person.
You're unique. Be you. Be you. Nobody can do Beth like Beth. They tried. They can't do it, Beth. Be you. Wow. Yes. I'm sorry. Oh. There's those God bumps again, saying that it's just crazy. Yes. I hear you. Be victorious. You're more than helpful.
You go, girl.
You go, girl. Isn't that nice to know? By the way, Zenith, you can be anything you want. You know that, though, right? Good. I just want to check in. Why do you cry so much? What do you wish they would have said about that? And to say, come here. What are you crying? Yeah, you're crying. How are you feeling about that? Oh, you're crying. Come here. Let me just hold you for a little bit. You don't have to stop crying. Come on. Wouldn't that be something that just would be like, instead of, I had it too. I understand. Stop crying because you're making me feel guilty. That was my mom. And she'd be like, just stop crying, stop crying. Well, and then I understood later when I did this work, that I understood it. She didn't want me to stop crying. She just wanted me to stop doing it so she wouldn't feel bad that she felt a part of why I was crying with my father, right? Hey, Gabriel, got a word? Anything you would like anyone to say to you that make you feel good? Okay. Yes? Anything over here? What's that? Intention? I'm sorry. I'm sorry is a big one, right? Oh, Ron? You're safe? Sorry, all of that. Especially, I'm sorry. Sometimes, here's the other thing. We underestimate the inner child because we think the inner child has to have a lot of stories and explanation. All the inner child part of us wants to understand why it happened, how it happened, why did you not love me? That's all that part of us wants. It doesn't want revenge. We think we want revenge, but we don't. We just want to go, why? Why couldn't I cry? Why? All you had to say was, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're enough. You're enough. Yes.
It's okay if you don't do it like them.
It's okay if you don't do it like me. It's okay you don't do it like me. How would you do it? How would you do it? Do you see how different that is? And so, here's the good news before she plays those bowls. Here's the good news. Is that it's not too late. If you don't get anything out of this evening, the one thing I'm telling you, I don't care if you are 6, 7, or 107. It's not too late to reclaim that part of ourselves. Could you shut that light off? Yeah. All of them, actually. Yeah. So, and then I think this is good. Yeah. So what she's going to do is I want you to close your eyes. I don't want you to overthink anything. And then you're just going to hear me saying some things, some affirmations, some questions. And what I want you to do is just give up for just a moment. Just give up for lack of better words, the adult self that has to have it all planned out and thinks it knows it all and I've done this or didn't do that. Just really sink deep, 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 deep. And just allow that incredible, incredible life essence that I call the inner child to just be seen, to be heard. It doesn't have to have a face. It can have anything you want it to be. You can be anything you want. And just keep breathing. And as you're sitting there, I'd like you to finish these sentences that I start in your own mind. But come from that childlike place, that childlike wonder. I love daydreaming about. Fill that in. I love daydreaming about. Feel it. Become a part of it. I love daydreaming about. When I grow up, I want to be a. When I grow up, I want to be a. Let it be known. It's your sacred space, you and that beautiful, beautiful inner part of yourself. My favorite subject in school was. My favorite subject in school was. When I'm with my friends, I love to. When I'm with my friends, I love to. Now, this is just between you and yourself. Nobody else knows this. Right now, I want you to know that. Right now, I want you to know that and fill in that blank. My favorite color is secrets make me feel secrets make me feel I feel safe when I'm you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. You can be anything you want to be. I am with you when you cry. I'm with you when you laugh. I'm with you when you're sad. I'm with you when you giggle. I'm with you through it all. I love you. I love you. Let my voice be any voice you want it to be, from yourself to anyone that has been in your life. I love you. You are safe. You are safe. I'm sorry. You are enough. I love you because you are you. It is safe to go deep, 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 deep within self. I will never abandon you. I will never abandon you now that we have found each other. And if you're comfortable, take a nice deep breath. And repeat after me if you choose. I am safe. I am safe. I am lovable. I am lovable. I am awesome. I am awesome. I am awesome, and you know it. You are not the boss of me. I am lovable. I am safe. I am smart. I am funny. I love being me. I love being me. I love being me. I love being my best friend. I love being my best friend. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. Now just bathe in that. Bathe in all of that incredible energy of love and acceptance. I accept myself. I accept myself just the way I am. I am enough. Wait, I am more than enough. This is fun. Wow, I'm awesome. Wow, I'm lovable. I am daring. I am fierce. Oh. And so it is. Before we put the lights up, I have to go around now. Just, what's one word of how you feel right now? Peaceful, Michael? Enough, yeah. Jack? Powerful. Peaceful. I'll jump past and come back. Emma? Satisfied. Duncan? Lovable. Fantastic. How you feeling, Melissa? Reminded. Sue? Content. Loya? At ease. Gabriel, what are you feeling right now? I got it. Love? Yeah. I would feel that too if I were you. I do feel it, and I'm not you, but I'm me, and I feel that. Yes. Simply being timid, tired. It's, yes. Rob, peaceful. Nurtured. You know what's great about being tired? It's because when we do all of this kind of work, we stop fighting anything, and then we're able to just peacefully, like, just be rocked like this. Wow. Oh, my goodness. All right. You can turn on the lights gently.
Gently was the word there.
I am so glad that I took this year off from doing it all the time so I could bathe in a new energy, a new vitality, a new, with new eyes and with new energy. It's so, if we I'm just thinking of just this, the energy in here, it's so beautiful right now that I'm thinking to myself, if we just all did this all the time, everywhere we went with it, we would feel so how we felt. right? So that's connecting with the real you. Now, I found an interesting thing about trauma versus, one thing that I've learned too about the inner child work is that you can't really measure what mine is versus yours because we're all just in this incredible collective consciousness, but we're also in our own stuff. And that's okay. Instead of us thinking like, I hear it all the time, or at least I did. I won't hear it anymore because I don't want to hear it anymore, and I won't. But this idea that, well, I didn't have it as hard as you, I mean, the book you're writing, we're not, first of all, I hope and know that you didn't, because I'm not competing. I'm not competing by telling who can tell the most horror story. I'm telling it so that we can be free to tell and be anything we want to be. That's what it's about. It's not about the that mine wasn't as big as yours and you're not doing. No. It's about the simplest of things. And I love this idea about getting acquainted with yourself. We think we know ourselves, but I'm just telling you that there is so much that we can get to know, and there's this other part of us that is just waiting, and that's the demonstration part that we talk about in treatment and in everything else. So I want to just briefly go over this new concept that and it's called From Shame to Victim to Survivor to Thriver. And it's real simple. I'm not going to get all deep into it. But what's interesting about it is when you go through any kind of trauma, especially as children, we blame ourselves first usually. Now, this is all hypothetically, but statistics, and then you know me, and science of mind. I believe in diagnosis, but I don't believe in prognosis, so you can't tell me how to prognose my emotions either. But there is some truth to it, that when you have any kind of trauma in your life, there's a blame factor that goes in, and you start blaming. And a lot of times when we're young, and we do it when we're older because we're taking it with us, we blame ourselves. If I had been enough, he or she would not have treated me like that. If I had been this, then you would have never have torn down my tree. If you had been this, and it goes on and on. And so what you usually do is you blame. There's a self-blame. And what we want to do is leave the self-blame and give the responsibility, and that's with anyone in our adult life too. I've had a thing in my adult life where I said, I'm not sure, I got tired of this in this relationship, let's say, not my relationship, but I'm talking about the idea that I'm not going to continue to be your perpetrator is a big thing for me. I didn't do enough for you. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I'm done. I retired from your perpetrator, and I'm not going to be a part of your victimhood anymore. That's pretty harsh, getting in there. But sometimes you have to do it. Because what happens is I'm blaming myself that things aren't working out for you, or I blame myself that I remember growing up and an army doctor saying to me, now my mother on her 20th time of leaving my father, said, now do you blame yourself? And I remember as a young boy going, no, she married him, I didn't. I mean, because I had this understanding that I can't be blamed for my father. But not everybody feels that. No, not everybody has that, whatever it was within me that I've discovered within the book as well. But so you're blaming yourself. So then you go and you say, you know what? You're going to take responsibility for what's going on here. Then what's great about that is you gain some power back, but then you become the victim. Because then you admit that there was abuse or there was this or that, and then you become the victim, which is not a place you want to stay, right? But you want to get on, and why they do it in any kind of psychotherapy or they do it in anything is because they want to get you off of self-blame and give the responsibility to the person, the abuser, whatever you want to call it. They want to give it back to them. And this is in trauma, but I'm talking about it could be in anything. So then you take that and you go, I don't want to stay at the victim, and then you go to the next stage out of victimhood, which is, what I did. Look at what he did. Yes. And he becomes what? A survivor. You see how people, it's a badge. I survived it. Ha! I survived a whole childhood of my dad. I'm a survivor. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a this survivor. I'm this survivor. And there's power in that because you start to recognize all the stuff you did that's so, you look at my chest. It's going all back up yeah, survivor. But we can't stay there either. At least I can't. Because survivor is limited as well. Because when I'm just a survivor, then I will make choices in life to just survive. Okay, it's good. It's not bad. It's kind of like, why should we move? I mean, we're surviving here. We're okay here in the center. So if I can't, because Michael has dreams all the time about the new place. So we have to make sure that fulfill those dreams of. But do you see what I mean? For survivor, and then survivor is scary because survivor to me, I survived the relationship. I survived my father. I survived that. It gets scary to me because if I'm just a survivor, it can come back. Just like in cancer or anything. Oh my God, I'm a survivor, but what if it comes back? What if I didn't really take care of those relationships, then it comes back? And now I'm in an abusive, however you want to put it. So we want to become, and that's where science of mind just wraps you like in I'm not selling science of mind. I'm just telling you that it's just a beautiful feeling because it says, science of mind says, you have always been, you always will be a thriver because of where you come from. You just forgot. And we got a little tangled up for a while. So we loved ourselves through it. We got a little tangled for a minute. We forgot that we were thrivers. And what is a thriver? A thriver is when we return to the true self. We return to the true self that says, wow, look what happened. I even put that in the book, right? I'm going, please don't judge all the people in my life. Celebrate me. Celebrate me. And celebrate that we can help one another by going, we're thrivers. And then said, no, I'm a survivor, man. I'm a victim of this thing. Okay, but you won't be forever because that can't stay because we're not born to be, we're not born to be victims. We're not born to be any of that. We're not born to be survivors. Surviving is wonderful. I'm not against it. I've been a survivor, I know. But you do have to leave it to go, you know what? Surviving, it's kind of boring. I want to thrive, man, because then I can have all of these things. And that's what we keep telling our child within. We keep telling that inner you. We keep saying, listen. And then he says, no, today I feel like I'm not enough. Okay? You can't say, well, no, you are enough. Really, you are enough. And you're thinking, no, you can't do that to yourself. You go, what do you need? What do you need to have and to feel enough? What do you need? Did you yawn? Oh my God. It's okay, you got 20 minutes. What do you see? Well, that's because I put you all in a trance when you were but that's the thing. Do you know how, I just want to let you know how beautiful it is to have you here, to have you, Gabriel, here, to have all of you here. But it's really beautiful to be on this subject and seeing these beautiful young people. It's just beautiful. So does that make sense, though, that little trip? It's kind of like taking back the story. So our goal is to thrive. Now, I want to talk a little bit, just for a moment. We're on perfect timing. I'm very happy about this. 20 minutes. Actually, 18. So here's the thing. The other thing I want to talk about is the womb. Because I've been finding out some interesting things that we all went through in the womb. Because I was in the middle of writing the book and I thought, well, I don't channel, and I do sometimes, but I don't channel let disembodied people all through me or anything. But I said, I'm going to sit down and kind of channel. So I asked my little child what it was like to be born into this family, because it happened right when I said, I want to hear from you. I'm kind of making assessments and judgments about my little boy. And he went all the way back to the womb. and I started writing. I said, holy woly. And so what it was that my mom, and I don't need to get into the whole story because you'll be buying the book, but here's the deal. My mom, we all know, and I'm going to just read a few things scientifically. We all know that we're connected while we're in there anyway. I mean, that's not a mystery anymore. But our times are going beyond that we're nutritionally connected. And that every emotion and everything that's going on is being felt, right? And so I started writing this thing about my mom had a secret when I was inside, and I started writing, and somebody said, well, how do you know that was really you? Oh, stop it, it's my fantasy, it's my dream world, leave me be. It was myself in there, and it made such sense when I looked at the rest of my life, because she had this terrible secret, and she was begging, and my mother was Catholic, and she was begging for certain things to not happen so that when I came out, and I said, oh my God, and as I'm writing, I said, and it was coming from present tense, I said, my mom was praying to God. No, I didn't even know it was my mom. This person is praying to God, but I'm the one hearing it, and I'm shifting my DNA and everything else to accomplish it for her. I was like, ooh, God bumps. Truth went out. And I went, oh no, are you just imagining this? And what it was is that my mom was so scared to find out that I was somebody else's. I act like it's a big secret when I've told the whole world. But that whole idea, so she was saying, and she told me later that she did say, she said, please take away his dimples and make his hair straight. Because she was that scared that when I came out that I wouldn't look like my dad, that was my dad, and secrets. But what happened was I remembered going, I got to make her happy. I have to make her happy. I have to make her happy. And I remember thinking, and if you look real close to me, there was actually a little dimple in there. So I said to myself, if you can make it go away, you can make it return. And I went, I'll try that one this year and see how it happens. But the whole thing that I got from that whole thing was I said, what my mom did not realize is that these prayers were being, my writing from the book, was directed to me, and that I was rearranging the prayers to do the things that she petitioned. I did this intuitively. She was praying to God, and yet what she did not know was that she was talking directly to me. In a moment of her begging and pleading to God, I decided that if this would make this person happy, this person that was giving me life and that I was feeding from, the least I could do was to make this happen and make her happy. And I spent the rest of my life doing that with my mother. Now, it's not bad. I mean, we had a great time too. We had great time. But so is this true or not? I don't know. But what I do know is that they say the truth is much of what we have traditionally believed about babies is false. Bruce Lipton was saying this too. They are not simple beings, but they are complex and ageless. Ageless. They don't know. They're not going, well, I'm going to be 9 months soon, and I'm not, they're not doing that. It's just ageless. That's why it's like God. And there's this small creatures in unexpectedly large amounts. Wait a minute, this is exciting. Awake or asleep, the studies show that unborn children are constantly tuned into their mother's every action, thought, and feeling. From the moment of conception, the experience in the womb shapes the brain and lays the groundwork for personality, emotional temperament, and the power of a higher thought. Up to 50% of a child's personality has already developed by the time he or she gives birth. The 9 months in the womb are so fundamental to human development in every area of life. Through the mother's blood that crosses into the placenta, the fetus is learning how to survive in his or her parents' world. And to me, I remember thinking there was a lot of stuff going on in my parents' world. And I went, Now, is this true or not? But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I can understand that some of the things that I did, choices I've made, were just probably even as far back as the womb. So what does that make me do? It makes me go, wow, that would be incredibly fascinating. But not surprising, is it? I mean, we live that close to something, a being. I used to say that, I always make a big joke. I used to say, Mom, can you believe I used to live inside of you? And she would go, why do you talk like that? What makes you talk like that? And I go, I don't know. Margaret makes me do it, and she talks like that, so I could talk like that. So before we start to wrap up, means you'll be in bed in no time. But then again, you don't really know time because you're ageless. So really, there's no place or time. So here we are. So something else that came into my wonderful world was the idea of spiritual mind treatment, teaching it to the inner child. And you think, well, we already do that because we already do it in our work as practitioners and people that what does that have to do? And I took it and I broke it down for that part of myself. And I asked that part of myself, what do you recognize in the world? What is it that you're recognizing? And is the world big to you? And ask those kind of questions with this whole guide of spiritual mind treatment, the 5 steps. I said, because recognition is basically us recognizing that there's something so massive and wonderful and creative that is us. But sometimes we don't feel that way. And children sometimes do not feel that way. So it was like teaching that part of myself. I said, what do you recognize as who you are? Did you know that you're everything? Did you know that? And just went in this whole thing, and I could feel the vibration coming, going, I'm everything? Like, a child's like, what do you mean everything? Like everything? Seen and unseen? Yes, that's actually what's running the show. And then the second step is identification. And then you say what? Not only is it everything, and you ask if you're enough, you are that. You are that. Wow. And so you can feel the vibration of the inner child is going, what? Are you kidding? I mean, I'm everything too? Yep. Well, then I absolutely am more than enough. I must be more than enough. And then instead of claiming, I'm a loser, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not worth it, I'm this, I'm that, right? What are you claiming? I'm wonderful, I'm awesome, I'm lovable. I can be me just the way I am. This is who I am because, why? Because I recognize that I've never been separate, just like when in the womb. But beyond the womb, I've never been separate from this incredible thing called the breath of life. And then Thanksgiving, you're thinking, what are you so thankful for about? And you go, are you kidding me? I'm talking child talk now. The child's like, are you kidding me? You know what I just found out? I found out that life, that is everything, I'm not a part of that. I am that. And I can claim the things I've always been wanting to say. Perfect health, perfect everything. I get to claim everything. I get to claim sleeping in 9 minutes. I get to do that. I can claim anything I want. Oh, I know, but how do you know that? This is conversation within the inner self. How do you know that? Well, I already told you, but you obviously weren't listening. I'm not a part of that. I am that. And because I'm that, I get to claim anything I want. And I'm so thankful for everything that I have because it's already right there. I'm embodying it. It takes my breath away. Why does it take your breath away? Because I've been really living really stressed out about everything. But now I found out all of that was great, but I didn't have to do it. And I still don't have to do it. What am I going to do with that? And then you go, oh my God. Oh my God. I'm God. God bumps. That's why they happen. And then you go, I can breathe. I can sleep. I can stop worrying. Ah, just like you felt right after you were all in this wonderful little womb, cocoon, just bathing yourself in how beautiful you are, and how special you are, and how awesome you are. And then you go, there's nothing left for me to do except release. And then bam. And so it is. Or better now, ta-da. 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 So, wow. What do other people do on Tuesday night is what I want to know. I know what they're doing. They're dancing over at Panola's. I know what's so I just want to thank you for putting your dancing shoes on and coming over here. But I just want to tell you a couple of the things that I'm planning with this new adventure of the Inner Child Academy is that I'm really big on radical forgiveness because we haven't touched that. The reparenting, talking about what we talked about tonight, but actually spending time on, my parents didn't do the best job, but that's okay. They did the best they knew how to do at the time they were doing it. Nobody taught them either. My mother didn't go to an inner child workshop class. And just to let you know, she wouldn't have either, at least in this lifetime. But there's this opportunity for us to reparent. If I want to say, that's why I'm always saying I'm proud of you, even when I don't feel it. I'm going, you're not feeling really proud of yourself, right? You feel like you're lying? Yeah, because right now I feel like, not now, but, just self-talking. I feel like I'm, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like an imposter, or I feel like, you ever felt like that? You feel like, oh, am I a fraud? Because I was topping this stuff yesterday. And then today, I called myself some names. Nobody heard. And then the inner child says, you don't think so? I heard every word you said. That's just like when we're in the womb. It's like you're eavesdropping. They said something about health. We got trillion cells, and they're eavesdropping on everything in our incredible body. And I'm going, yeah. So a couple of that, I want to do a rite of passage. I think we're long overdue. I used to do it with some groups, but I've been kind of being called to do it. The one thing I want to say about rite of passage, one of my most difficult times in my life was probably rite of passage, puberty, call it whatever you want to call it, boy becoming whatever. And I'm laughing because I think, I was saying the other day, I'm the only one I know that's 64 years old, just about to hit my Medicare, 65. Yeah. I said, I'm the only one I know that is still working out as baby fat. Because I'm going, wait a minute. I got to complete the puberty thing. You know what I'm trying to say? And I was laughing, and then that part of me that used to be so shameful and stuff, he said, that's kind of funny, but don't really make a habit of talking like, because that still doesn't make me feel good. So just so you know, first of all, that my father had, multiple personalities, but what I'm talking about right now is not multiple personalities. It is just that one personality that's being, and the attributes of what I call the inner child. A couple of other things that's happening is that there's a 3-week coming up in March 23rd, March 30th, and April 6th. I'm going to be doing a live one, and then I'll be doing a Zoom one for the mainland because they don't get to partake as much in that. But that it will be divided, not like, bam, let's get all it's going to be divided. And once again, I really thank you. I know, because Sue, you did bring that. You said, you said the problem is that we should get together or do that. And the other day we were on a call, and she said, we didn't know him, and they said, we're going to have on February 18th a follow-up. And so, not really February 18th. For us, it was February 18th. So, and I went, oh, that's what was missing from some of the incredible work that was done with the inner child, was some follow-up. Also, everyone knows that I do one-on-ones. We all do as practitioners, but I have now incorporated my inner child work Angel just got its wings, by the way. But I'm incorporating it in our one-on-ones. Even when I work with little ones, they still have that same thing. I am so excited about what has transpired this evening. I am just, and it's not about what happened or this happened. That's all for you to digest. But before we have 4 minutes. That's fast. But before, does anyone want to just tell just just a moment or two about their experience or something you'd want to share, just from tonight that can help us all, right? Anyone want to share anything, or you just want to go to bed? Go to bed's fine too. Or a question. It doesn't matter.
So I'm really used to and comfortable seeing Patrick, the funny performer and actor. And it's different watching you, I want to almost say like model and facilitate a different level of vulnerability. And so I feel like I'm being called to be open to that in being with my ohana in this process. I have a little concern about what I call like the psychological safety with my counseling hat on, because it's like, oh, we're starting to be kind of opened up, right? And you just are like at the tip of maybe some icebergs, maybe bigger ones for some of us and littler ones for others of us. And it's just different to be here and have this opportunity. So stay tuned, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being open enough and vulnerable enough to say that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't want to crosstalk, but Beth, you reminded me of something. Wasn't this the feeling of when we were going through flying solo, right? So this is really a pathway of going into that very sacred space of flying solo. I know that a lot of people here probably don't know what that is, but it's really, truly an opening. It's incredible. And you just reminded me of everything, because that is the feeling, right? The feeling of being vulnerable and psychological. It's just on a different level, right? So,
Yeah.
If you don't know what Flying Solo is, it's a program that we do that people put together the pieces of their life and synthesize them into a 10-minute spoken word piece. And by doing that, they have to really kind of bring everything up and process it. Yes.
Right. Okay, a couple more. Loya?
So when I did Flying Solo, I did it when I was a little child. And what came to me today with what you did today was to do more of a teenage child.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And, the beautiful thing about it is it's not, the path is different. Sometimes you're the teenager. Sometimes you're the adult with it. Sometimes you're the little one. Sometimes you just want to be taken care of. It's all a part of the beautiful part of who we are. And the more that we can just wrap ourselves around it, I think the more we can allow, I love the word nurture, we can nurture ourselves and allow that to be. Anything else before? Michael? Michael? Mike don't need a mic. Okay, go ahead.
So when I emailed you, said I'm not acquainted with my inner child, and what I'm realizing is I've always been acquainted. I just wasn't really allowing that freedom of that inner child to come out. So it's nice to see what that really is.
Beautiful. One more, I think, Jack.
Just some thoughts and questions I had where I was considering as you were talking that there also seems to be within me something like the inner adult and maybe the inner teen that have sort of different perspectives at different times. And you also talked about, through my counseling, I realized how pain, suffering, and trauma are also relative, because one person maybe had been in a fire as a kid, and then another person just had some words spoken to them, and they were more traumatized literally than the other person. So you can't really judge a person's trauma experience by what physically happened to them. It's all how they their movie was.
Absolutely.
And then I just wondered if, even though the thriver is like the ultimate state, it seems like we had to go through the process of surviving first to get to thriving.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think that's what they're saying in the studies, is that when you become, and I think that's exactly it. And what they're trying to say is we don't want to stay in any of those things. And I was really kind of surprised a little bit that the survival mode, because I think that's the ultimate goal for a lot of people. I just want to get through this. I want to survive. And if I can just survive, and I have felt that. I was so happy to just be a survivor. I didn't care about any of it. But then I went, then there's more to you. There's more. But I can see why survival, because if you've been through a lot, or like you said, it's subjective in many ways. Even if you haven't, then then our goal is not to be a thriver, but I think it's about coming back to good, coming back to God. So, in closing, there's a word that didn't come up that I really, really want to bring and give to you tonight. I actually want to say something to Beth too, is that I know that this side of me sometimes people aren't, I know what they're used to. And that's okay. But that's all a part of my medicine as well. And so in my evolution, I'm learning to just bathe in them both so wonderfully for me, to go into the arena, to be vulnerable, and yet still be funny and still be this. I'm considering it now. I say to my inner child, it's a gift, kiddo. It's really a gift, and start using your gift. And this is what kind of emerged for me this morning. But there's a word that I want to really tell each one of you, and tell myself, and tell Jonathan and Rob and people. I know that you don't think we see you, but we feel you online, because I know that you're there. But the one thing that I want to say is, this is so freaking courageous. This is so courageous when we're in a world where it's just kind of where we need to be in order to survive, in order to be a part of the group. And then when you sit there and you go, I'm more than that, and I don't know where I'm going right now, or as Rita will say, we're swimming in the unknown, man. And we have to be okay with that, or we don't. But for me, the assistance that the inner child and the inner you that gives us in order to do the great things that you're all here to do individually. You are that special. That one that I said, you are just being just you. We can do and be anything we want. And if you're lonely, and if it's lonely, say yes. Oh, this is what loneliness feels like. But when we clasp at it, right, we trap ourselves in it. So courageous, thank you for being so courageous, not only for tonight, but for this world, and showing up and saying, scaring the crap out of me, man. But I'll go, maybe a little bit here. I'm just going to stay here for a while until I, feel like going over there. Okay, let's go. Like that. So before I treat just everybody, would you just give yourselves a big hug? Just a big hug. Oh my gosh. How special we all are. And so continuing to hug yourself, whatever you need to be doing right now, what I do know is that something wonderful, something powerful, something dynamic has ensued this evening. That spirit, this thing we talk about all the time, and tonight I just know that each and every one of us in our own individuality has experienced exactly what is needed to be experienced in order to move forward from this moment to the next moment to the next moment. We are so loved. We are so guided. We are so protected. We are so safe. We are so enough. We are so more than enough. We're everything that we ever wanted to be is right here. And that universal flow is saying to us right now, I can hear it loud and clear. I am so proud of you. I got your back. Whatever it is that you require to go forward and to expand, I am here. I am here. I am here. And I know that I am loved and that this thing called life is moving through me, as me. And I know as we go from this place to the next, that we are just an inner giggle, an inner smile is right there saying, yeah, that was scary, but yeah, that felt kind of good. Shh, don't tell anybody. And then tell everyone. And with that, I am so blessed, so grateful for this evening. I am so grateful for the technology that allowed people to be a part of this evening with us, that there was no separation, just like there is no separation between Source and us. And with that, I say, yes, let's have at it. Let it be. I'm so grateful. Let it go and let it be. And so it is. And we know what to say, kids. Ta-da! Namaste.